Hello, dreamers, and welcome to this week's In Focus session, which is where we break down one topic at a time and really get to understand it a bit more. And this is the first part of a 4-part series, which is going to be a little bit different because I'm joined by a guest who I'll introduce in a second. But for those of you who follow me on Instagram, you will remember that a few weeks ago, I put a post up on my story asking you, what is the biggest thing that holds you back from living your life to the fullest? And what we're going to do today with my guest is break some of those down. So this is the first of 4 episodes. So my guest is Mr. John Dashfield. Hello.
Hi, how you doing, Alex?
I'm good. I'm very well, thank you. So just to introduce yourself to the listeners, can you just explain a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. So I'm John Dashfield, like I said, and what I do is, you could call it coaching. Yeah. So I work in the business world, and I work with entrepreneurs. I work with people who own businesses. I work with people in the business environment, and essentially, what I'm helping people to do is to be to really be the best version of themselves more of the time. There's a very specific way that I do that, and that's what we're going to be talking about on these podcasts. So rather than me trying to explain it, hopefully it will come out.
Yeah. I mean, the important thing really is that for me, wanting to have you do this with me is because I know you're very experienced in the coaching field. Over 25 years experience, is it?
Well, I've been interested in this topic really since my early 20s. Yeah. So that'd be like 30 years.
Yeah.
For a living, as a business, I set it up in 2004.
Yeah.
So that's what, 15 years.
Nearly 15
like
years, yeah. So, like I said, very experienced in the field, but also we've been doing a little bit of work together where we've been helping each other's. I've been helping you with some digital stuff.
Yeah.
You've been really great at giving me some tips and advice and sort of, I guess, kind of mentoring role, which is amazing, which is why I want to sit down and do this. So today, first episode, we're going to discuss time and why do you feel that time plays a factor in people feeling like they can't achieve what they want to achieve, or, like you said, become the best version of themselves?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question, Alex. And if you take it back to what we're saying here is that people want to get from A to B. Yeah. So A is where they currently are, and B is wherever they want to get to, whether that be in their personal lives or their business lives. And then sometimes what people think is that time is something that gets in the way of them moving forward at the pace they want to move forward to, or it stops them getting where they want to go, right?
Yeah.
And so how do people get past that?
Yeah.
Well, for me, what you really want to do is look at, well, what's actually going on, because time itself is a concept. It's a man-made concept. Yeah. So the 24-hour clock, if you like, is really, an idea.
Yeah. But is that not deemed by the way the actual science of the way the world obviously moves around, spins around in that 24-hour period, creating a day and a night? And
yeah, exactly. And that and so human beings have basically decided that cycle is a useful way to organize their lives, right? Yeah, and that's it. I mean, simply we use the clock in the way we use it. So if I'm meeting you and I say, Alex, let's meet at 4:00 on Tuesday, well, because we're working on the same time, we know we need to be there. But then saying that time, or believing that time is what stops you getting where you want to go, or is a barrier, that's a completely different thing, right? Because see, the way I would approach that with a client. So if a client came to me and I was working with them, and they said, well, I want to get here, but I don't have time. Well, you might say the conventional wisdom or the conventional approach to that is about time management. Right? So it's about, okay, breaking it down into, and to me, that might be useful, but I don't really think it's really the most helpful approach. And the reason is this, that if you think about, there's the external concept of time.
Yeah.
Now everybody's got, if you look at it in that way, no one's got any more time than anyone else. We've all got a 24-hour clock, right? And so if you say, well, I want more time, well, you can't have more time because time is time, right?
Yeah.
So essentially it comes down to what you're doing with it. But actually it's more than that. And the reason it's more than that is because time is really an experience, in the sense that everyone's had that experience of time moving at different speeds. Yeah. So there are times when we almost have no concept of time. So you're lost in an activity. Maybe you're doing something you really love to do, and you've just completely lost any sort of concept of time because you're just so engrossed in something. And there are other times when, for example, you might be doing something that you actually can't stand doing, and you're thinking, when's this going to end?
Yeah. Like the tension when you're in school.
Yeah,
seems
exactly.
to last for 5 hours instead of 1.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you think about time in that way, really time, in the way that we experience it, is not the same as time as in the linear concept of time. Okay. Now, as you know, what I share with people is really an understanding of how the mind works at the most fundamental level.
Yeah.
And the reason I think that's important is because if someone says, I don't have time, well, for them to move to a place where they experience time differently, then what would ultimately happen is they would have a shift in their state of mind, or they'd have how you might describe that is they'd have a shift in their level of consciousness. Yeah. So they get a new thought, or they'd have an insight or a realization about time, and therefore their experience of time will be different to how it was before.
Yeah. But what sparks that experience? What makes that experience, my experience, different to yours, to someone listening?
Yeah. Well, see, ultimately, it's the what you might call the feeling state that you're in. So I'll give you an example. I mean, several years ago, I was in an audience at a program, and they were really talking about state of mind and what creates it. And I guess I was half listening, and I was sitting there, and suddenly I got this real powerful insight. It was so strong that suddenly it was like a, what you might call a light bulb moment. The light, suddenly it went chi-ching. And what I realised was there's time in the linear sense of time, past, present, future, like a line. And then I realised all of a sudden that actually that really hasn't got anything to do with time at all.
Yeah.
It's more to do with time. The present is that, if you think about this, the present is the only moment that we actually have, this present moment. Yeah. The past is a memory, and the future is a construct in the mind. Yeah. So there isn't really, they're just intellectual ideas, the past and the future. Yeah. And the only moment we have is now.
So apart from the present moment, any other concept of past, future, time in general only exists within our minds.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's even more than that. It's the only experience that any human being is having, moment by moment by moment, is through their thought in the moment. So, we're living in a thought created experience entirely. See, And what's fascinating about that is that if we feel sort of tight or tense or constricted or, you know, fearful or disillusioned or disappointed, or, you know, to relate it to what we're saying about time, if we feel like we're in that feeling of I don't have enough time or time's getting in the way. See, that is not what that experience for us is not information about time. What it is, it's not information about our external world.
Yeah.
What it is, it's telling us that our thinking is tight and constricted. See, because there's a direct, unbreakable relationship between thought and feeling. See, now where we catch ourselves out is that we think how we feel has something to do with our circumstances. Yeah, and if we live in that misunderstanding, ultimately you're a victim of circumstance, right? Whereas the reality of it is that, what I share with people is one of the things. If you understand that if your feeling is like that, all it's telling you, or what it's telling you, is that your thinking is, you could say, you're caught up in your thinking.
Yeah.
You've got a busy mind.
Yeah.
See? Now, if you really see that for yourself, the tendency of the mind, it will just naturally clear.
Yeah.
See? And when people's minds clear, when our mind clears, see, we just naturally fall back into the present in a much clearer mind.
Yeah.
And from that place, see, time is not an issue.
Yeah.
Because from a clear mind, your mind's going to give you thinking that's useful. So it's like your mind is designed to give you the thinking that you need if you let it do that.
Yeah.
See? But if you get caught up in a busy mind and you think that busy mind is a result of something external to you, you're caught out.
Yeah. So how do you fall back, I guess, and start living in that present moment more, or experiencing that present moment more, rather than this concept of time and, you know, the anxieties that come with thinking about future, or, you know, the pain or whatever it is that you might attach to the past?
Yeah. Well, it's a really good question. And see, in a way, the rabbit hole is the question of how. Because how is a process word. Yeah. So what do I need to do? And really the understanding is that there is nothing to do. So this is what catches people out, because it's the doing that's the problem. See? So it's all that mental doing, all that mental chewing over of thinking that's creating the issue for people with time. Whereas when people fall back into that present moment, see, there is no problem with time.
Yeah.
So it's like, for example, you know, most people, I guess, have got something that they all love to do, like maybe a hobby, or, you know, just like spending time with friends, or see, and people aren't thinking about time.
Yeah.
When it's like
because
that.
they're just in
the moment.
that moment and enjoying that moment. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not something we have to learn how to do, because we've been doing it ever since we were born.
Yeah.
It's just really breaking that link, that there is a connection between the external world and our internal experience.
Yeah.
See, and once we start to have that deeper understanding that one is our experience is not caused by our circumstances. You know, our experience is inside out. It's being created from the inside out. And secondly, which is really important, is that having that understanding that the mind will give us the thinking that we need when it settles. See? It's designed to do that.
Yeah.
And so once we begin to understand that, then we just naturally settle back into a place where the whole idea of not having enough time is just not an issue. Yeah. And that's a very different approach to thinking that you have to dive into a time management program.
Yeah.
Because it's like Albert Einstein said, you can't solve a problem on the same level of thinking that created the problem. Yeah. And that is so important, because if you're in a state of mind where time looks an issue, it's really inconceivable that you're going to find the answer in that same state of mind.
So is there like an element of you're creating almost tension against saying I haven't got enough time? You're creating like an experience in your own mind of friction of, oh, I can't do this because I haven't got the time to do it. Is that kind of what you mean?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I mean, the whole idea that I haven't got enough time is a self-reinforcing concept in your own mind. You know, if you think I haven't got enough time.
So then, because for a lot of people in the younger generations and my generations, and some people, certainly definitely older than me as well, don't get me wrong, but I feel like of my generation and below, and especially the sort of teenagers growing up now, this thing of time becomes really important, because I have a lot of conversations with people where they say things like, I've always wanted to, make art, but I haven't got the time, or I've always wanted to open this restaurant, but I haven't got the time. So how can you use that, asking how again, how can you use that inside out experience that you spoke about to help focus you onto the things that you do want to try and achieve later down the line? I'm treading carefully around my words because I don't want to say in the future, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. It's a really good question. And
how can you use the present moment to elevate what it is that eventually you want to be experiencing later?
Yeah. Well, I mean, so in essence, if I'm understanding you right, is that someone has an outcome or a goal in mind, which is somewhere out in the future in their imagination, right? And they want to propel themselves towards that in the way which is, you can't predict the future, but we all want to give ourselves the highest and best chance that we can of accomplishing the things that are important to us, right? Well, you think, okay, so what is the state of mind in which we're most likely to do that? Well, when a free and present mind is our greatest leverage point for accomplishing the things that we want to accomplish. Yeah? A busy, over-encumbered mind is all over the place. Yeah. Right? So, see, in my business, in my coaching business, when I work with a client, I don't give them strategies, I don't give them ideas, because the way I look at it is, my ideas are great for me, but why would they be great for you, or why would they be great for one of my clients? Because the ideas that you come up with in your own mind are tailor-made for you, because they come from your own mind. Yeah. So what makes sense to me, and I've been in the other world of giving people strategies, for a long time, and what I noticed was they might be great ideas, but my criteria for the work that I do is what actually works. Yeah. And when you point people towards the natural workings of their mind on a fundamental level, what I know, and I've seen countless times, is that we're all born with the equipment to get us where we want to go. Now, see, everyone's had that experience of, you get interested in something, right? And suddenly you start seeing stuff to do with it all over the place. Yeah. Have you had that experience? Yeah, of course. So you get interested in, I don't know, you want a particular car, or
you start noticing that car. You're driving a certain car and you start noticing other people driving the same car.
Yeah. So see, that's exactly what I'm pointing out, is that when you get interested in something, then your mind is naturally going to provide you with thinking that sends you in that direction. See, now, if you understand that that's what it's going to do, and you stop interfering with the process, you're away. You're on your way. But if you keep, if your mind is busy and you have insecure thinking, or you start thinking, I haven't got enough time. Well, that isn't to do with the goal. That's got nothing to do with the goal whatsoever. what that's to do with is it's just telling you that your mind is busy.
Yeah.
You know, if you feel tight and tense, it's not to do with the content of your thinking. It's to do with just the speed of your thinking. You see, and the more people's mind speeds up with thinking, see, the less chance that they've got of useful thinking getting through. Because if you've got 1,000 thoughts in your mind, you know, well, which one do you pay attention to?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. I mean, there's a lot in there that I hope people can take from this. Have you got one final word on time itself?
Well, I think the most important thing is to realise that, you know, we're all perfectly designed to accomplish the things that we want to accomplish, and we don't have necessarily control over the outside world and the future. Okay, but once we understand that if we don't interfere, you know, if we don't interfere with the process, then we're going to get the thinking that we need. And yet, if we get into a busy mind and don't understand why we're getting into a busy mind, that a busy mind is just a product of misunderstanding rather than having anything to do with our external circumstances. So the clearer we see that for ourselves, then the quicker we just fall back into that space where we perform as the best version of ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's all we can ask for, really, isn't it? You want to show up as the best version of yourself more of the time.
Yeah. Amazing. All right. Well, if people want to hear more from you or, you know, find out more about you, where can they go? Where can they find you?
Well, my main website is dashfield.com. So they can visit that website and they can go on there, they can sign up. I as you know, I write an occasional blog, or people can get in touch with me, and people are always welcome to send me an email or inquire and ask me questions. So yeah, cool. That's the best place. Yeah.
Perfect. And as ever, guys, if you do want to get in contact with me or ask more questions or, you know, hear more, then make sure you go and find me on Instagram and Twitter at I am Alex Manzi. Hopefully this episode's been really useful for me. For you, it's definitely been useful for me sat here. So I hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time for part 2 of 4. Make sure you go out there and chase your dreams.